right? So I want to make some progress on the Reddit app. We'll see what we can do in the hour, or not quite the hour, right? Because I also want to talk about resumes. So Monday, you're gonna have due your rough draft resume to me. So I do want to talk about resumes, and we have an assignment called Resume Meet, which I also want to talk about. First, though, how are we doing with our Reddit application, right? So when I click on subreddits, what is the path that's going to change up here, Lin J?
When you click on it, it should go /subreddit.
Exactly right, yeah. And then when I click on one of these, what path is it going to take me to, Maureen?
Oh, it's supposed to take you to the subreddit ID.
Yeah, so it'll be subreddit /this ID. You can actually see at the bottom there when I hover. Do you guys see in Chrome? It pops up /48A blah blah blah. So I click on tech, and it takes me to subreddit /the subreddit ID. And because of Next.js folder routing and the dynamic part, this component right here is rendered, and we see the word subreddit. But what do we want, right? We probably want subreddit name as a title would be nice, right? And what else do we want? Well, right here, we want to show the posts associated with this subreddit. So let's brainstorm that, right? The easiest is probably just showing the subreddit name. So let's start there. How can I show the subreddit name as a title? Semsi? This is actually not as easy as I thought. Yeah. This might take a few steps. Yeah. Any ideas though?
Not really.
Yeah. So basically the question is, how do we access this ID? Right? So what do we think? How do we access this ID?
Do we have to do a Prisma fetch call first?
We will have to do a Prisma query. Yep. But not yet. How do we access this ID? Basically, how do we access the dynamic part of the params? Right?
Response.params.
Yeah, so right here, all we have to do is destructure params. This is passed to us automatically. And then we can see it right here in our console. We have subreddit ID.
A question on that.
Yeah.
So before we did response, and then response as the argument to subreddit, and then we accessed it through response.params. Was that not right, or did something change?
No, response.params is to access the dynamic part for an API route. So this so this is a little bit different, but very similar. But yeah, so the response.params, do I have an example here somewhere? No, not yet. But that was like when we access an API route, like post / 123, and we're doing a put request. How do we access the 123? Remember? That would be response.params. Here, well, so the difference is, I was going to say we're on the front end, but that's incorrect, right? Because this is a server component. The difference is we're in a page.jsx versus a route.js. But it would, yeah. So because we're in a page, we have to access it a little differently. So how do I grab the subreddit ID from params?
you can write const curly braces subreddit ID equals params.
Yeah. And then we can console.log subreddit ID. And now we have the subreddit ID. But now I want the name of the subreddit to put in this H3, right? So I have the ID. We're in a server component. How can we access the name of the subreddit?
We have to do a Prisma call, right?
Yeah.
And find it by its ID.
So we're going to import Prisma, and we're going to do what, David?
Well, I would do const subreddit equals to what is it? Await Prisma dot subreddit dot find first, I guess, where the subreddit ID, or where the ID is equal to subreddit yes, yeah, that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this I have to change to what, dude?
You want to make that async. Yeah.
Yep, very nice. All right, let's see if this worked, right? By console.logging the subreddit. And do we like this, David?
Do we like that?
Yeah, do we like it?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it looks weirdly short, but we like it.
Okay.
It has the name, right? And that's all we're after. So, David, how do I put the name of the subreddit here?
So then you would just access it by doing subreddit.name.
Yeah, and what do we need?
Curly braces. Sorry,
Yeah.
curly braces.
Yeah, and there we go. We got tech. Any questions on that, or what questions on that first objective? That was a good one about the params. That is tricky because they're both backend, but you access the dynamic part in different ways, which is weird. Okay. So does anyone have a brainstorm to get the posts associated with this subreddit? And first, how can we check? So before that, how can I check the database to see if there's any posts visually? Pimpa? What tool can I use from Prisma to check our database to see if there's any posts at all, actually?
Maybe go to Prisma Studio.
Yeah, so we're going to do npx Prisma Studio. And I'm looking right here, and all we had is we have some errors, right? So let me try to migrate, see what's going on. I might have changed the password. Okay, it's an error that it basically can't execute what I'm trying to execute because of conflicts. So let me try to reset it. Yes. Okay, cool. So let me try to run Prisma Studio again. And no users and oh God. Uh-oh. This isn't helpful at all.
It did that to me earlier today, and all I did
Yeah.
was go back onto Neon, make sure it was on, and refresh, and it stopped.
I bet it's that my password is wrong. Wait, but why did migrate work? Let me try to migrate again after the reset. That's strange. This should work if the migration works. Okay. Hold our breaths. Thank God. So no users, no subreddits, right? So what do we need to create in our schema? Pimpa?
Post.
Yeah. I'm going to copy subreddit because it's probably going to be pretty similar. But what needs to change, Ellery, on line 30? What needs to change if we want to model posts?
Not sure.
Okay. Ketrin? So we want to make a model for post. What needs to change?
Change subreddit to post.
Yeah, that's the first change. Oh, sorry. Okay, what about this line, Ketrin? Or these lines? What needs to change for post?
So we don't need name. And I think we need the title.
Yeah, so let's make well, let's actually delete these. So we do need a title. And what data type is that?
String.
Yeah.
And we need the message.
We need a message. Yeah. What data type?
And string too.
Okay. Very nice. Are there any relational fields, David?
Yes, there are.
What do we got?
Okay, so you're gonna have I have to look at my own schema. Subreddit is a relational field.
Yeah, so a post is associated with a subreddit.
Yeah, so that means we need a subreddit. We need an actual. Okay, you got it there. Okay.
Yeah,
and
but what
then-
needs to change here?
Oh, so that needs to be an array because you can have
Just naming. Yeah.
just lowercase posts.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. What's the other relationship for posts?
You're gonna have a user relationship.
Yeah, a post is associated with one user. So we do that. We press save. We let Prisma do its thing. And then just for naming, we like to make this lowercase and plural. You guys might have other things with posts, but we'll just go with this for lecture example, right? We'll keep it a little bit simple. Yeah. So we made a change to our schema. So we're going to go ahead and migrate. Okay. Is this still running? No. So we'll run Prisma Studio. And then I want to actually create a post. Some post, right? Or I guess I just need a few. So I want to add a post. Say hi. The message is hi message. And subreddit, I'm going to, oops, why isn't it showing me subreddits? Because we have no subreddits, right? So before I create this post, I actually need to create a subreddit. So I'll do tech, right? And I'll save, oops. Maybe because I need to discard these changes. So let's try again, right? Name, tech. What is going on? Oh, show all the different fields because a subreddit needs a user, which I don't have as well. So for the user, that's a little weird, right? Because we want to hash the password. So instead of using Prisma Studio to create the user, I'm actually just going to use our front end here. So I'm going to run our server. And then I see an error right away. So I want to check out that. There's an error in fetch user. It cannot convert undefined or null to an object. Undefined or null to an object at fetch user. So let's check out fetch user. And does anyone have an idea where this error is being generated? To an object.
Well, it says line 29. So, well, there's no line 29.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I suspect it's in your nav bar, like it's trying to compare against a, like it has a conditional that's checking for a user, like a user.id, for example, when there's no user.
But the thing is, it's telling us it's coming from fetch user. Oh, but also
It's
nav
happening at the
bar,
nav bar.
line
async nav
17.
bar.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, so let's check out that navbar line. Sorry, where's our navbar? There it is. Navbar line 17 cannot convert undefined or null to an object. I've actually. Yeah.
So this happened to me, and the way I just got around it was I just got rid of ID. Like instead of user.id, I just kept it as user.
Yeah, but an object is truthy, so that won't work.
It's truthy, right? So I also adjusted fetch user to return null rather than an empty object, just because it's easier to compare against. But
Let me do user and user.id. See if that fixes. No. Is it the user and not user? No, that doesn't make sense. Or maybe.
I think it's still going to give you the same error because you're doing an operation on user. You're doing user.id.
But most of the time it would say can't access property ID of undefined or null. Cannot convert undefined or null to an object. I haven't seen that language before.
Maybe, yeah, I would in your fetch user, instead of returning that empty object, just return null.
Oh, I'll do you return user, or if user is falsy, I'll return an object. Let's try that. No.
Yeah, that should work, Max. I was running into the same issue yesterday.
Null to an object.
And that kind of fixed it, I think.
I don't think it worked for me. Cannot convert undefined or null to an object. Console.log.
In mine, I have in where it says if user cookie and the return, I have the user with just curly braces and token null.
Right here?
Yeah.
You have return null?
I have return curly braces, user colon with curly braces, comma, token.
Yeah, I don't want all that. If there's not a user cookie, I just want to return an empty object.
I think you can just return null there. I mean, I ran into the same issue and I just put null on 12, return null, and then did the same on line 24.
But that's changing the logic of my app. Now in navbar, I wouldn't be able to use this logic.
No, but you could just use user. You wouldn't need.
Yeah, but
to
that's
use
changing the pattern of my app. That's just a different pattern. I want to use this same pattern and just fix this bug. I know that would probably work, but it would be abandoning this pattern I'm using. But maybe we'll just have to do this while I figure this out. Okay, we'll just do that. That's fine. So not user, and here we'll just do user. And then in fetch user, here we'll return null. And here we'll return null. Oh, this is okay. This is where the console is being. I bet this is where the error is being generated. Because user is null. Oh, is it because I'm asking? Oh, okay. Here. If user, then delete user.password. I bet this line is generating the error. Yeah. Okay, now let me switch my logic back. I'll keep that, actually. That's fine. But I do want to return the object. And I do want to return the object. Although null is fine as well, David, if that's what you did. Yeah, that's the line that was generating the error. So let's dissect that, right? So any questions on that? Why this line is generating that error? You're asking to delete a property called password, but user isn't an object.
But to be consistent, we could say there on 20, if not user, then error, right? I mean,
no, it's not an error if Prisma doesn't have this user. There's no error, yeah. Yeah. It's just you don't have a user. Okay, now I have to change my navbar back to that. Right? Yeah, okay. All right, debug session, right? I just forgot what we were doing. Oh, I want to register a new user in our database. So I'm going to do max 123 and click register. And on Prisma Studio, I now should have a user. And now that I have a user, I can create a subreddit. And I'll call this tech. And this user is me. And I'll save that. And then I'll create a post associated with tech. So title Next.JS 14. And I'll say, how do I access params in a server component? And this subreddit is tech. And the user is me. Okay. Okay, so now at least there's one post that exists, right? In tech. There we go. So right now it's not showing though. And where's this console.log coming from? I'm not sure. Anyway, okay, now we're in a position where we can try to get all the posts associated with a subreddit, which is the whole goal of this, right? And we'll probably end this phase of lecture, or we'll end working on this and switch to resumes after this. So, any volunteer to get all the posts associated with this subreddit?
you can do const post await Prisma dot post. And then we want to find all of it, so find many. And then inside, you can put where. And that where would contain the subreddit ID, but also we want to, oh, it doesn't have, okay, yeah, just that, yeah.
Mhm.
Where subreddit.
Okay, so let's check out console.log posts. So for tech, we should just see one, right? Which we do. That's nice. Okay, so now how can I show show all the posts, basically? Medi? Now that we have the posts stored in posts, how can I show all those posts? So it posts as an array. Yeah.
We do H4 maybe? H4.
Do what?
Or no, we just put the brackets.
Curly braces?
Curly braces, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And we put no, we put we want to show posts.
Yeah, we want to show a list of all the posts. So how can we go through the array one at a time to iterate through that array?
So it's on this.
Should we get some help?
Yeah, if you can.
Sure. Victor, how can we show these posts? You're helium again. I think you're doing that on purpose to get out of Zubida, how can we show these posts?
I'm not certain.
Okay. Volunteer from class?
You would map. So
Yeah.
You could use
Yeah.
open.
And Ritu, do you know your camera's off? I'm not sure if you know.
Oh.
Okay, so we're going to use map, right? There you go. Okay. And we'd like to show all these details, right? But for right now, we'll just see if this works with post.title. And there we go. Next.js 14, right? Obviously, we'd want to show all the details, who created the post, blah, blah, blah. But that's fine for right now. So, any questions on our Reddit app?
Yeah, I just want to draw people's attention to in the fetch user.
Fetch user
function.
Yeah.
So when you return an empty object.
Yes.
So every time you call fetch user, and if you try to compare like not user, like if you do const equals fetch user, for example, and then you try to compare an object like that, an empty object evaluates to truthy,
yes,
not falsy. So the logic has to change.
Yeah. So what David is saying is if we convert a Boolean, it's true, right? Which is weird because it's empty. Most of the time we think, or I don't know. It's possible to think it's falsy, but it's truthy. Yeah.
So the advantage of returning null is you can then just evaluate for falsy. It's just a lot easier to evaluate for falsy.
I mean, I wouldn't say a lot easier. It's just instead of user.id, you're just saying user. Yep. But then the disadvantage is the eventual data type is an object. So you're switching your data type, which can, in my opinion, result in like unexpected weird things happening in your application. I like the consistency of keeping the same data type. But that's really preference. It's not a huge deal. Any other questions? Okay. So Monday you have due what do you have due? You have due a resume. Your first rough draft resume. Okay. A lot of this information is only going to apply if you have zero experience. Well, if you really don't have a resume at all, or if you have zero experience with any kind of tech stuff in your work experience, right? So if you really there's nothing at all. I give you guys a sample if you are in that category of people that just doesn't have a resume at all, pretty much. So here's what I think in that situation is nice to see. Here's Hackmyhead, right? A little summary of Hackmyhead, and then right to what we call resume meat, right? The meat of your resume. So descriptions of the projects you built in this bootcamp, and then a link to the deployed the deployed application for each. So, feel free to use this, feel free to change it, but feel most free to use what you already have. If you do have any sort of experience. But yeah, I am going to need a rough draft resume on Monday. So when you submit your resumes, please mark, if you don't mind, please mark public so that we as a class can discuss it. It won't be on YouTube or anything, but it is nice looking at your resumes and talking about them as a class. So I can give advice and then everybody can hear the advice. So any questions initially on this, but we'll talk more about resumes, but okay. So then the question is, well, how do we get these descriptions, right? And this is where the second assignment comes in. So we have resume meat, where you will have to give at least 3 entries. And you can pick any project you want. Let me register. I don't know if I'm logged in or not. Let me log in. Okay, so what am I doing? So let's say I wrote this for Spammer, this description. On resume meet, I go to Spammer and I add this entry. And this is 1 entry, right? By Max. And you're responsible for making 3 of these. So you have to talk about 3 to 5 sentences, talk about the technologies you used in this certain project. So ChatGPT is very encouraged for this. It's probably the one time I'm going to really encourage you to use ChatGPT. And then you're going to go ahead and just copy your entries and paste them into the assignment here, right? So, questions on that assignment. This will be due tomorrow before class. So this maybe will take priority to today. And then the cool thing is we're kind of crowdsourcing all these entries because you can just use the ones you like the most from your classmates. If you don't feel comfortable with someone else using your words on their resume, then let me know and we can figure something out. But you don't have to. Well, just let me know if someone's in that situation, and then we'll figure it out together. So what questions are there? Resumes or the assignment or Yeah.
I have a question on the Reddit. So for the votes,
You have the question on the real Reddit assignment?
yeah, the real
Okay.
Reddit is, yeah.
For votes?
So for votes, so how do we differentiate between, let's say somebody did an upvote and then they want to change it to neutral, to like no vote or a downvote. How is that differentiated with the current properties that we have?
Well, in the docs you can add to it, but all I have is to create a vote, so you can create an upvote or a downvote. So if you wanted that when they click on the upvote, it deletes the current upvote, then you should probably do a new path to delete. So I don't have it in the docs here, but you feel free to add it. So it would be /votes, but it would be a delete request. And you'd actually probably have /votes / the vote ID would be the path. That would make the most sense for REST naming.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So feel free to add some endpoints. The only endpoints I don't want you to add is a get request, because those you can always do with server components.
And so just to clarify, Max, so you'd first want to search with Prisma to see if a vote exists, right? Is my guess. Like when you're trying to click on one of the arrows, you first want to check to see if a vote already kind of exists.
Yeah.
And if it does, either whether is a vote is true or false, you want to change it to you probably want to either change it to the opposite or delete it altogether, right? If you're clicking on it again, is what I think would happen, David.
Yeah, but your front end will know if there's already an upvote that exists. So your front end will send the delete request.
No, I see. So
But
would that be just by storing it in a variable?
no, your front end knows if there's an upvote from that user already. Or they should know, because it should have the different coloring. You know, on Reddit, if you upvote, it looks yellow or green or whatever. So you already should have that logic in there. And you can use the fact of there existing an upvote to, if they click on it again, to just send a request to delete vote / that vote ID.
I feel like that would run into an issue though, where we would need to use a state to store that, wouldn't we? Like, would we?
No,
like
you're just on each.
Would we make a boolean called is
No.
voted true or something like that?
No, you're just requesting from the server or from the database directly all the votes, and you can check if a certain vote has the same user ID associated with it. There's no requirement for state in that example. But of course, the clicking, that will require interactivity, the clicking. But that can be in its own component.
Okay.
Got another question. On posts route on the back end,
okay.
Should, like, I have a parent ID property, and I think that's in the, I don't remember if that's in the docs or not. Okay, so it is in the docs. So when posting a new post, the parent ID is going to have to be part of the request if it's a reply to a post.
Yeah, it'll be right here. It's just optional.
Oh, it's optional. Oh,
yeah.
I didn't see it in there, so okay, gotcha.
Yeah, see, the response has it. I guess I should have put it and just put a flag for optional, but yeah, it would be right here if it has a parent ID.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah, good question. Anything else? All right, let's get you into some groups. Okay.